She's dancing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Faith Gateway Live author chat. I am Sammy Cohn, your curator of the Faith Gateway Family section, and I am so excited to talk to today's guest. I am joined by Nancy Rue, author of So Not Okay. How are you doing, Nancy?
I am great and happy to be here. Thanks.
I am so excited to talk to you today. I know we're going to have a lot of questions from our audience today. We're talking about I don't know if I want to say a controversial topic, but definitely a buzzworthy topic. So before we get into it, I just want to let everyone know that they can join in the conversation by tweeting to us using the hashtag #SoNotOK. We're going to get to as many of those questions as possible, but start sending those our way. And also, you're going to want to stay tuned because we have a special discount code on the book only for our audience today, so you want to make sure that you hang around to hear that and the great information that Nancy is going to share. But Nancy, while we're welcoming our audience in, while they're tweeting their questions, can you give us a little bit of a background and kind of let us in your head as to where So Not Okay came from for you? Where's the heart cry that this developed from?
I've really been concerned about bullying for a long time, and watching things like as far back as Columbine and understanding the bullying element that was involved there. And then we're hearing more and more about suicides, younger and younger kids, especially girls. And it occurred to me that we're probably starting too late to really talk to kids about bullying from all three standpoints. And so, having been a tween author for a long time, I thought this is the place to start. We need to get to these girls at this age, starting at 8, and give them some skills for standing up for someone, for standing up for yourself, and for figuring out, I'm mean, and I need to stop it. So that's where the Mean Girl Makeover Trilogy came from. And from that, with the help of Thomas Nelson, arose this movement that we're doing, which is So Not Okay.
Yeah, it's so powerful, and I love that you take a look from both sides of the equation. I don't think that happens very often. And so what is some of the response that you've been hearing from So Not Okay? Because you're really empowering girls and daughters. It's not just upon the parents, although that's part of it, but you're putting this book, this isn't a handbook for parents, this is a book you're putting in the hands of girls. Talk to us about that.
Well, the first book is from the standpoint of the bystander. And the reason we started there is because that's the biggest group. That's 70% of the kids. You've got probably 5% bullying the other 25% or 20% or whatever that comes out to. And in the middle, you have what we call the girls in the middle, or the kids in the middle. And they have the most power by virtue of sheer numbers. And yet, a lot of times, those bystanders don't stand up. They just stand by because they don't know what to do. They haven't been shown what's really going to work, and they're afraid that the bullying is going to be turned on them. Any number of things can happen, and so many of their well-meaning parents are saying, just stay out of it. Do not get involved. There's always been bullying. There always will be. And that's just not necessarily so. Did we say from the Holocaust, well, there's always been anti-Semitism and there always will be? No. And so now is the time when this thing is really escalating to get in there and teach those girls in the middle how not to stand by. The response has been great, especially on the blog, the After School Wednesdays that we have. The girls are saying, thank you for telling me what I'm supposed to do, and I tried this, and I did it, and then I send them a button that says, bullying is everybody's problem. So they're getting involved, and just a little bit of information, just some concrete, this is step 1, this is step 2, it's amazing what that does.
Yeah, and like you said, I guess unfortunately it is a timeless issue. It's something that has been around for a long time, but we don't have to settle for it. I love that poignant remark you make, and I mean, comparing it to, like you said, what has gone on for decades and centuries, the idea that there is empowerment and not just the, hey, as long as it's not happening to you and you're not the one doing bullying, take a step back. Can you talk a little bit of specifically for maybe parents that are listening in, what are some of those top tips that you have that parents should be talking to their daughters about?
When your child comes home and says, people are being mean to little Heidi, for example. And it's probably because she wears those glasses that look like Coke bottle bottoms, and she talks too loud, and sometimes she doesn't smell that good, and these other girls are mean to her. For mom to say, wow, how do you feel about that? That's really not okay, and especially as a Christian, there's some things we should do about that. Let's talk about it and elicit what are the fears, why aren't you, And then we take step one, which is to simply go to that girl and say, I don't like how the other kids are treating you. If you need any help, you let me know.
Hmm.
And that really is step one. In some schools, they're instituting something called a buddy bench, which I've just learned about. There's a bench, and if a child is feeling left out or feeling like people are being mean to her, she can go and sit on the bench. That cues that bystander into, there's somebody that just needs someone to come and sit next to her and say, you know, you're okay.
Hmm.
And, of course, then there's the fear. Right? The girl goes, yeah, but I don't really want to be like her BFF. So it starts like running around after me or whatever. That's not going to happen if she helps that girl to figure out who she is. I mean, a lot of times you think, well, no wonder she's bullied. She's annoying, right?
Right.
We can't deny that.
Right.
And so we can help that bullied girl to go, we don't want you to change yourself. No one has a right to be mean to you, but there are some things you can do not to set yourself up as a target. And one of those comes from the bystander. One of our code cards is called Save the Tears. And the bystander can go to that girl and say, all right, next time they're mean to you, do not let them see that they're getting to you, that you just suck it in, save those tears, get to a safe place where you can then cry. Of course it hurts. Don't let them see that it hurts you. And that's one of the first things we've done on After School Wednesdays, and the response has been amazing. Girls are going, that really works. It even works for me. It doesn't necessarily mean the bullying is going to stop, but that's the first step.
Right, absolutely. And you get right into it. I mean, even in Chapter 1 of So Not Okay, you get right into everything you're talking about. You know, you see the characters right away. The bully, the girl being bullied, her friends that are poking her, and I mean, you're really getting into the heads of tweens. Can you talk a little bit more about just where this impetus is coming from for you? Did you have to go through this with your own children? You're so passionate about the topic.
Well, I did with my own daughter. And she told me, she came home and she said that it was picture day, and she got all dressed up. She was in the 6th grade, and that was in the days when you did the bangs that stuck straight up like that with the hairspray. Yep. And she just thought she was looking all cute, and she went to school. She's standing outside of her classroom door, and these girls, and I can still remember their names, first and last.
Oh, my goodness.
They said, hey, Mary Jean, do you have any mirrors in your house? And she said, mirrors? Yeah. And she said, you can't possibly have any mirrors in your house, or you wouldn't come to school looking that way.
Oh.
And that kind of stuff was going on all the time, and I didn't know what to tell her. The mother bear in me wanted to go up to that school and choose some parents a new face, right?
Right.
I have that instinct, and it did profoundly affect her. And even though she rose above that, it did affect her. And I have recently been looking back to my own childhood, because I've been saying I really wasn't bullied. I was a bystander, though, and it hurt me to see what the meanness that was going on. But as I've been thinking back, I should have been bullied. I was a prime target. We are talking about an awkward, skinny, gawky with a freaking laugh. I mean, I don't understand, why I wasn't bullied. And I tried to figure out why. Why wasn't I? And because those are things I think I can share with parents and with girls. And one of those was that I found my niche. I found an activity outside of school, someplace where I felt like I was safe and I could shine. The church was amazing. I felt safe at church. That's one of the things that's bothered me too, Sammy, is that so many girls are saying to me they're bullied in their youth group. They're bullied at Awana, and nobody's doing anything about it. And that disturbs me.
Wow. Well, and I just experienced this firsthand. I have an 8 and a 10-year-old, and they just started riding the bus home for the first time from school. And my 8-year-old got bullied by a kid saying, hey, give me that seat, kid, move your backpack. And luckily my daughter and 3 of her friends said, sit down, so-and-so. And it was because of that it gave my son more confidence, and I had never thought until that moment about empowering them in that way and creating that new culture. Before we get to some of our tweets, and as a reminder, you can tweet us at #SoNotOK if you have a question for Nancy. But what would you advise parents, like you said, for those of us that just want to get down and march to the school or call that parent? How can we help empower our kids in that way without actually taking that primal role?
Because we do want to empower them. The first thing to do is to validate this is painful, it is wrong, it should not be happening. let's start with what you can do to take control of the situation.
Good.
And so it's that save the tears. It's having a one-line positive response. We call them positive one-liners. So, for example, if I'm being mean to you, Sammy, and I am saying, you're just blah, 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 and you say to me, wow, Nancy, I really thought you were better than that. What am I going to say? No, I am not better than that. It's a deal breaker. It stops, so we have to help them, and we practice with them. And then that's like step one. These are things that you can do. But then as a parent, if you feel like this is not working out, you go to the school and you say, what are we going to do about this as a school? I don't want you to go in there, but we have to change the culture. And when a school finds out that parents are not going to stand by, then, because there are all kinds of programs that you can bring in, including us, of course.
Right.
But yes, the first step is to empower them, and the bottom line is you need to take back the power to be yourself. That is what someone who bullies is trying to take away from you. So you have to know who you are. Let's concentrate on that. Let's get you involved in some activities. Let's build your confidence so that it doesn't matter to you. You have your own place. But the worst thing we can say to them, Sammy, because here we are on the one hand telling the bystanders, don't just sit around and watch this happen. Get in there and do something about it. But we're saying to the victims, you have to just ignore it. You have to just ignore it. It doesn't work. It's never changed a bully's behavior. It's not happening. It's like putting a Band-Aid on, an amputated, stub. Don't tell them that. Let's help them find ways to stand up without becoming bullies themselves.
Absolutely. So much, and I think what I'm hearing from you, Nancy, more than anything, is that this is truly a coaching moment for parents, for teachers, for youth group leaders. This isn't a one and done. I mean, this is really something that probably involves, like you said, here's some practical tips, maybe some role playing. This isn't just we're going to have one conversation on the car on the way home from school, and I expect you to be fine for the next 8 years.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's an ongoing process, and as bullying changes and escalates, because we've got cyberbullying. We have the physical bullying, which is becoming more of a problem with girls as they become more athletic and more aggressive. And, of course, there's the exclusion, the little nuances. There's bullying by someone you've never been friends with, and bullying by your own friends who suddenly turn against you. And there's the shunning. There's the quiet. There's so much involved. You're right. It's not a one and done. I like that. Can I use that?
Please, of course. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you. Well, and I'm here to help, provide the voice of everyone else that can't have the privilege of talking to you right now like I get to. So let me ask you a question that we're getting from Whitney. And I honestly think this is probably on the question of all of our minds as parents, but she asks, is it ever okay for you to encourage the child who is being bullied to fight back? What's your stance on that, Nancy? You don't fight back. You take back the power to be yourself. So if you fighting back is when the girl says to you, you know what, you're butt ugly, and you say, yeah, we got a face like the butt of a orangutan, and then we've escalated, and she's become a bully herself. Okay, pushing and shoving, everybody gets in trouble. So the fight is to take back your own power and to say, really, you can't get to me with that. You can't hurt me with that. I don't know what you think you're doing. And then as you turn the other cheek to walk away, that's what the turning the other cheek means. Okay, so it's not like I'm just going to take it. It's not meek.
Give it back. I am simply going to say, I'm not going to take this anymore. I don't have to. Get off me. And that may make it worse for a time. But that's a matter of standing up and saying, this is who I was made to be. And especially as Christian parents, we need to be saying, okay, God made you as an amazing individual. You're going to let this girl take you down? The girl with her lip all curled up into her nostrils? She's going to tell you who you are?
Yeah, that's a really helpful, I like those two sides of it, Nancy. That's so helpful, I think, to see, here's an example of what not to do, here's an example of what to do instead, and here's another example of it. Are there ever, wrong things to say? What are some of the things that people do say to kids when they're being bullied that you would just,
Yes. There's the old, and I saw this on someone's Facebook the other day. We're raising a nation of victims. These kids who are bullied need to get a backbone. And to that I say, oh, those kids who are being bullied have a backbone. How in the world do you think they put up with that every single day? How do they get out of bed and go to school knowing people are going to treat them that way? They couldn't do that if they didn't have a backbone. The person who needs to get the backbone is that little coward of a girl who is mean to people just because she can be. And I have the utmost empathy for kids who bully because there's something going on there.
Exactly.
The first thing we need to do with them is to take them out of that situation and say, you can't do this anymore. Now we're gonna help fix you. We're gonna figure out what's going on with you, but you're not gonna take it out on her. So the person with the backbone already has the backbone. We just have to let her know she has it. So when people say that to me, it's really hard for me not to explode. The top of my head comes flying off.
Yeah, I believe that for sure. We have another Twitter question here, Nancy, and it is, how do you diffuse bullying when you're a Sunday school teacher? Now, I'd imagine it's hard because it's not your kids necessarily involved. So what advice would you have? You mentioned, kids being bullied within Awana. We think that's a safe place for our kids.
Right.
What do we have to be aware of there?
I'm really glad that came up because I was just talking to this about this to a Sunday school teacher the other day, and he said he had a boy who was, big kid for 8 years old, and he was just tearing it up in there, and he asked me, what do I do? And I said, you can remove him from that situation because it's not like a public school where you can't get rid of this kid, right? You say to the parents, he's wreaking havoc here, or she, and is, in my opinion, is not welcome to come back to the class. Now, we'll find somebody to work with him because this is the body of Christ, right? And we can work together and we can see what we can do about that. But I think if it's in Awana or youth group or whatever, I think that Sunday school teacher's job is to stop everything and say, this is the situation at hand, okay? Let's not, enough with the pizza and the popcorn party, and we're going to stop this lesson, and we're going to deal with this right here. Here's what Jesus says about it, because the Sermon on the Mount is all about how we're supposed to treat each other. So it becomes the teachable moment, really.
Absolutely. I want to ask you another question on that, but first I promised that I would give a discount code for our audience today. You need to get this book. Go to store.faithgateway.com, and you're going to get 40% off So Not Okay, plus free shipping when you use the discount code OKAY. That's OKAY spelled out. So you want to make sure to head on over, not now, make sure to listen to the rest of our time here with Nancy, but write down the code OKAY, OKAY, to get 40% off plus free shipping on So Not Okay. Nancy, if we can stay on this topic of the adults here a little bit, because we were talking about what not to say to kids, the wrong things to say. Right. Is there ever a time as a parent to take it to that level of, okay, we've talked to our child, we've talked to the school. Do you recommend going parent to parent? Or, like you said, a lot of times, I know I've told my kids, if someone's bullying, chances are there may be something going on at home we don't know about. We need to pray for them. What do you say about going to that next level beyond everything you think you could do, you've done?
It's very delicate. The worst thing you can do is go to someone else's parent in anger and point the finger and go through the long diatribe about all the horrible things that your daughter's done to my daughter, because as a parent, you're going to get very defensive. And the issue there is a lot of times the parents of kids who bully don't either realize that they're doing it or they don't see it as bullying. So it really has to be handled very delicately. I think the first thing to do is to say, I understand there's some issues, between our daughters. Can we have coffee and, kind of talk about that? See if you can get that door open, and do it mother to mother, which is, I'm thinking this is not a good situation for either of our daughters. Are you, how do you think we can put our heads together to help them? If you're meeting with complete resistance, then I think it's okay to say to that other parent, I'm going to need to go to the school, and this is not about getting your child in trouble. It's about getting my child out of trouble. Because it's the same thing that we tell the kids, those bystanders that don't want to tattle. And I always say to them, it's not the same. Tattling is to get someone else in trouble. Telling is to get someone out of trouble. And so it's the same with parents. But I think if you can get a group of parents together and go to the principal or to the librarian, because they're a lot of times the ones that really get things going, and
Right.
say, we need to do something about this. There are practical ways. Like, get Nancy Rue in here. I mean, because really there are other people besides me who also have good programs. And then it's up to parents to make sure the school follows up. Because one survey said that 80% of public schools have had some kind of bullying program come in. Less than 55% of them follow up.
Wow.
Follow through. It's a one and done, right? It's my new favorite expression. And so as parents, we really have to take the responsibility. Is this working? Are you following up? Are we doing anything about this? The squeaky wheel gets the grease, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think sometimes we think of bullying from the extreme side that we see on the news, or, like you said, the cyberbullying that's gotten so much attention. We don't think of the lesser levels. I mean, there's definitely different stages of bullying. We have a tweet here from Lisa that hits, I had this exact problem going through school myself, and she says, my 9-year-old daughter says her classmate/bully is a light switch. Friend in the morning, mean in the afternoon. Daughter lays down her guard. How should we deal with it? I mean, my heart just breaks because I've seen that with myself and my own daughter. It's not your typical bullying situation. What's the right thing to do?
Yet it is bullying, right?
Yeah.
I think that we need to talk to our daughters about what kind of friend is that? Is that friendship that important to you that you're gonna put up with that? So there's a couple of steps. Let's start step one. Let's just have her over. You sit down with her. I'll be around, but I won't be in the conversation. Let's practice what you're going to say to her. Why is it that one minute you love me and the next minute I'm poison ivy? And see what happens. That's not working out. Then I think it's real important to say, okay, do you want to keep this friendship? Because if you do, then we're going to have to talk to Mom and see what's going on with her. If you realize it's not worth it, then let's find out a way to break this off. And these are the things that you do kindly. This is the Jesus way to do this. And sometimes it's really kind of heartbreaking, but the most important thing is if it's your daughter, for example, that you tell her this says everything about her and nothing about you. Okay? When it's that kind of light switch thing going on, remember, this is not because you are doing anything wrong. It's because she has issues. Any kind of bully, you don't get bullied because the bully bullies because. Does that make sense?
Oh, my goodness. Well, and Nancy, I know you wrote this for tweens, but I can't help. I'm losing myself in it. I mean, I think that so many of us as adults haven't learned this lesson. And I think, you said it before with your own daughter, it doesn't just become a situation that our children are going through. I think we as women then, implant ourselves in this, and we have all of these stirrings that come up from our own youth. It becomes hard to see the situation clearly.
Well, it is. And yet what that tells us is that it does scar you. Have you ever been in a workplace where there was a bully? Hopefully not your boss, but at times I've had women who have said, I've had this situation as an adult. And for those girls who are doing the bullying, I don't know what the percentage is, but I would be willing to bet she's hearing her mama talk to people, in restaurants, the way she treats servers, the way she treats clerks, the way she talks to her friends and about her friends, the way she gets her way. Mom, you teach so much more by what you do.
And you just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, how important is modeling for us as women and as adults in our own friendships and our own relationships? I mean, it sounds like as much as we're going to say to our kids, we got to live it out, right?
And especially as moms of daughters, we have to live out that I am finding out who I am. It's a lifetime process. I'm finding out who God made me to be. That's who I'm going to be. No one's going to take that power away from me. And that's not the same as I just should be able to do whatever I want to. This is just the way I am. Our job is to teach them some of these things are not the way anybody is.
Yes.
Not just the way.
Yes, absolutely. We're coming to the end. We've got a few minutes left. If you want to tweet at us at #SoNotOK, we're going to try to take a couple more questions. We're getting some great questions here, Nancy. This one's from Brandy. She says, how do you deal with bullying when the bully is a relative, a.k.a. cousin? Just to say, she says it's such a touchy situation. I mean, you're family, right?
Change your name. Move out of town. That is really a toughie, but the same rules apply. And in fact, they apply even more because we have to learn just because they're related to you doesn't mean they have the right to walk all over you because that translates into she gets older, she gets married. Does she let her husband bully her? Does she let her kids bully her? Just because it's family. You don't have to like them, right?
Right.
And so absolutely the same rules apply, and that's a matter of mom having courage and backing her up. And she's going to hear it from grandma, right, and from her own mother that kids have always bullied. Just let them work it out. If your child is suffering and doesn't know how to work it out, I don't care what the situation is. We need to teach her how to do that and stand behind her. And that is how your child knows that you are her ally. Because if you let your own mother's opinion or Uncle Harry's opinion affect how you support your own daughter, she's dead in the water. Right, you are her main ally, and we have to stand behind them, even if it's if it's a cousin.
I love that you're saying that, Nancy. It is such a touchy situation, but really, and I'm going to make the assumption that as Christians, right, we'll lay a groundwork here. As Christians, we get this thought of you've already addressed the turn the other cheek, but we're supposed to love everyone. We're supposed to embrace our brothers and sisters in Christ, but then you have the idea of the boundaries, right? You don't want to put yourself in the line of fire. So can you we haven't gotten that question, but I hear it all the time of how to love through the pain, so to speak. So
right. Well, Jesus said, okay, got an issue with somebody, go work it out, right? And so it's not a matter, turning the other cheek doesn't mean I'm just going to let you hit me as many times.
Right.
The other cheek is really, you can't hurt me. Okay, that's the turning the other cheek. When he says, if you've got an issue with your brother or sister, in this kingdom of God, leave what you're doing and go work it out. Now, that doesn't mean that this small child who is being bullied by this very powerful leader of a clique goes right to her and says, okay, we're going to work this out. There are steps, that you take, and it may absolutely mean avoiding her. It may mean just don't even try to be friends with her. Don't think you're going to get into that clique. It's not like you're running and hiding, but it's just if I don't have to be around her, don't be. Because it is so much easier to forgive someone whose behavior is not constantly in your face. Right? And so there's forgiving, but then there's also, but I'm not going to lay down and let this happen again, because that doesn't help the other person. That just enables her.
Yeah, I hope people are hearing what you're saying, because there is power even in that little bit of intentional distance. I think we all see, especially in any relationship, that, like you said, when you're heated, you don't want to go to someone in anger or in frustration or in extreme grief. So just even having a little bit of that space, that intentional space of I'm not going to let this affect me, I'm not going to react the way you want me to react, is very powerful, even though at first glance it may seem passive.
Right, exactly, because it's a very active thing. It is, again, you are taking back that power to be who you were made to be. That's the power that we have in Christ.
I love it. I love it. This is probably going to be our last question, Nancy. I can't believe our time has come to an end so quickly. And remember that discount code OK that you can use on faithgateway.com to get 40% off plus free shipping. But let me ask this from Whitney. She says, what would you say to a child who is becoming depressed over bullying?
Oh, my goodness. That's when something needs to happen. And the first thing we do is to validate that pain and say, okay, this is real. What you're feeling is real. Don't say, hey, cheer up. Don't let them get to you. That ship has sailed.
Yeah. Okay? Yeah.
So we want to, first of all, let's take care of the physical part of that. Okay, let's make sure you're eating. Let's make sure you're sleeping. Let's get that all checked out, okay? And then we're going to say, okay, we're taking this very seriously now because this is affecting your health, and this can't be. And that is absolutely the time to go to the school and say, this is not an environment where my child can learn because she's now having emotional issues about this.
Right.
And because that's very serious. And, the suicide rate among kids who are bullied is 2 to 9 times higher than for other people, and that rate is even higher for 10 to 14-year-old girls. We just don't think about that because they don't have the resources to deal with it, and they can get very hopeless very fast.
Right.
So I would encourage moms, when you see any of those signs, eating habits have changed, more time spent in the room, not wanting to go to school, not enjoying activities. Let's get to the bottom of this right away. And the person who needs to be counseled is not your daughter. It's that girl who's doing the bullying.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am really passionate about that. Let's get to her. Let's get her out of the situation because your daughter's going to be okay.
Yep. There you go. Well, Nancy, I could talk to you for hours. I'm sure our audience could listen to you for hours. This has been so valuable, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Nancy has so many great resources to dive into this more, including the book, So Not Okay. Remember, for 1 week only, you can go on store.faithgateway.com and get So Not Okay for 40% off plus free shipping. Great deal by using the discount code OKAY. That's OKAY. Nancy, it's been such a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for taking the time today.
And thank you.
It's been my absolute pleasure. Again, make sure to follow us at Faith Gateway on Twitter. We're happy to bring you more of these Faith Gateway Live segments. And don't forget to check out So Not Okay by Nancy Rue. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Sammy.